Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law. Folks, today we are going to do a top 10 moments over the last 2 weeks in the Karen Read case. I am excited to share these with you. Last week we didn't do one. I wanted to kind of maybe wait. We'll maybe do one more for the end of this trial. We're going to do the top 10 moments of the entire trial. But for now, I want to leave you with the top 10 moments over the last 2 weeks, essentially 9 days of testimony in the Karen Read case, because I wanted to have a little bit more content for you all. And so without further ado, don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and call us if you need us, 1-844-774-HURT. And by the way, before I forget, if you're not a member, you should join, because I have some Diddy content that is behind a paywall. So go check that out, okay? But I give you the top 10 Karen Read moments of the last 2 weeks of the trial. Let's go.
You were asked at a hearing about a year ago, back in May last year, May 3rd, as a matter of fact, 2024, about that relationship. Do you remember what your answer was?
No, not specifically.
You remember saying, in response to the question, who's Caitlin Albert, asked by me?
I don't remember specifically what I said.
Oh, here we go.
Did you
Impeachment.
say, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert?
Have the page number in line, please.
Oh,
May 3rd
yes.
transcript,
Oh, yes.
10-24, lines 2 and 3. Did you say, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert?
I believe so.
Refresh your recollection, take a look at your transcript.
Sure.
Okay, refresher.
Can I refresh your recollection as to what your answer was to the question, who's Caitlin Albert?
Yes.
Did you say, quote, I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert?
Yes.
She's embarrassed.
Ms. McLaughlin, that was not a full and accurate statement of your relationship with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I object.
Was that accurate?
I mean, that's a fact. That's
Okay, next question.
I'd like to be seen.
Oh,
Right.
Brennan. Brennan's falling apart.
Go ahead.
In answer to that question, open-ended question, who's Caitlin Albert, you didn't offer up in that first initial response, you didn't offer up, you didn't say we're friends, did you?
we're not.
You didn't say that we are in the same friend group, did you?
No.
You didn't say we've been friends since high school.
No.
You said, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Almost as if you just saw her name in a yearbook.
No, I don't agree with that.
That's not true, is it? I mean, that wouldn't be true, correct? Because you did know Caitlin Albert.
That is true. And you asked me if I knew her, and I said yes. And you asked me if I'm friends with her, and I said I wouldn't say friends.
You wouldn't say friends.
Right.
Even as you sit here today, you would not say that you're friends with Caitlin Albert.
No.
You wouldn't say that you've been friends for years.
We've known each other for years.
That wasn't my question.
We've known each other for years, but we are not close friends. We don't have a relationship, just her one-on-one.
He didn't ask if you... He just asked if you are friends, and the answer is yes. Why? I mean, keep dodging, please. You look like a complete fool. But why? Just admit it, own it, and move on. These people are just incorrigible. They make themselves, they take so you understand from a jury's perspective and from your own perspective, those of you who may be watching this trial for the first time, you may be able to figure it out as well. Because if you saw the first trial, it's a bit harder to put yourself in the shoes of someone who has no idea what's going on. Trust me, I know, I'm one of them. But it's like this. The longer you drag out the answer, like imagine I were to ask you, who are you dating? And you are dating someone, and you were to lie and say, no one, I may just leave it alone. I'd be like, okay, they said no one. So you're single. Yes. Okay. You're not dating anyone. You're single. Cool. Anyway, so, how about that hockey game or whatever people talk about? I don't know. I don't hang out with people. Now let's flip the script. Okay. Same question. I'm asking you, the viewer. Are you dating anyone? Well, not specifically. Wait, hold on. What do you mean not specifically? Well, like not currently, like in the moment. I'm not currently in this moment in time. I'm not dating anyone. Wait, hold on. It's a simple question. Are you or are you not? What do you mean? Like, do you have like a situationship? Do you have like a situation shit? You know, do you have a relationship? Like, what's going on? No, I'm. You know what? Forget it. I'm not dating anyone. You see the difference between those two statements? Both end in I'm not dating anyone. But in the first example, it's just open, direct, and although a lie, I don't know that it's a lie, but I'm not tipped off. Katie McLaughlin is answering every question with the second kind of category of like dodge, 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 answer. Dodge, 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 answer. Dodge, dodge, answer. And it's so bad. It makes her look even worse because the relationship is innocuous. At the end of the day, the relationship between her and Caitlin Albert means absolutely nothing. Katie is making it seem like it's something because of her dodginess. You see the irony of all of this? She's trying to downplay it like it's not relevant. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. Stop asking. You see, this little it's nothing, stop asking is now, oh, I'm very curious to know why, because I know this is important, because clearly you don't like it. If she had just been like, yeah, we've been friends, so what? You've known her for a long time. Yeah, and? It's a small community. We all know each other. Too late. Watching this video can't save you now, Katie. Hi, Jennifer. Saying hi to Jennifer McCabe real quick, because I know she's watching.
It's just group settings.
You grew up in the same town together, correct?
We did.
Went to the same middle school together.
Correct.
Went to the same high school together.
Yes.
Socialized with her.
Yes.
Taken day trips with her and others.
Yes.
Small community.
Beach trips with her and others.
Yes.
Taken 4th of July weekend getaways with her and others.
I don't remember that, but
One of your best friends named Michaela actually lived with Caitlin Albert in college, didn't she?
Oh, she was looking for a rescue. Did you see it? She was looking for a rescue when it never came. She was like, damn it.
Your best friend at that residence where she lived with Caitlin Albert on more than one occasion, didn't she?
yeah, occasionally I would go to visit the friends that I had there.
You would even spend the night in the apartment with them, correct?
Maybe a handful of times, yes.
You've taken photographs with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I'm in pictures with her, yes.
You've been to baby showers with Caitlin Albert over the years.
I have attended a baby shower with her,
Had
yes.
celebrations with her over the years. Correct?
Yeah, we socialize, like I said, group settings, social events. I will see her.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
This is amazing.
May I stay by the witness stand just so I can take photographs back? Can you describe, first of all, take a quick glance through that series of pages and tell me if you recognize what's depicted in those pages?
Yes.
How do you recognize, generally, how do you recognize those documents? What are they?
Objection.
What?
The objection is sustained.
Are those photographs?
Yes.
Objection.
Oh.
The photographs. Next question.
Who's depicted in the first photograph?
Myself.
Objection.
What?
Do you see, does every one of those photographs include you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why?
Does every one of those photographs include Caitlin Albert?
Objection. I'd like a curative instruction.
Sustained.
The reality is,
Oh, I see what Jackson did. Oh my God, that is brilliant. Okay, for those of you confused, let me explain. This is amazing. Remember in the first trial, and he knew this was going to happen in the second trial, I just got chills how brilliant this is. So Jackson knows that these photos will never be admitted into evidence. He found a way to admit them into evidence without admitting them into evidence. Listen to this. Ms. Caitlin Albert, look at these. You recognize these? Yes. What are they? Objection. Okay, well, what are they? Photos. Okay, cool. Are you in them? Yeah, objection. Okay. Is Caitlin Albert in them? Yes. Objection. I want a curative instruction. Delete, Your Honor, the men in black, these jurors, delete the fact that they don't need to know this stuff. This is you. They don't need to see the photos anymore. They have seen the photos in their mind, and that is enough. They believe Jackson. They trust Jackson. Remember, when I spoke to Annie and Will in a previous video that I just shared clips from that one in on my channel. By the way, if you haven't seen that video from a couple days ago, it is amazing. And it's not just because I made it, but because I had inside information from people, my friends, my friend Will and my newly found friend Annie. Shout out to you both. The Glare, and I think she's 10 to Life or something like that. I know she's 10 to Life on Twitter, but I'm not sure what she is on YouTube. She may be under Annie. Is it Elise? Ellis? I'm sorry. I just met her. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, check them both out. They're amazing people. They both were inside the courtroom, and they said that Jackson was being followed by the jury like whoop, 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 whoop. That was just last week. This was obviously a little bit longer ago, but I imagine probably not much different. So by the virtue of Jackson saying, hey, these are photos. You're in them. Caitlyn is in them. And it's a stack of them. You recognize them? Uh-huh. They got it. No need to clarify.
Your relationship with Caitlyn Albert goes back not just weeks or months or years. It goes back a decade or more. Matter of fact, more than a decade.
I grew up we live in the same town, so we went through all the same school systems and everything.
May I approach?
Yes.
If I can have this, please. The reality is you did more with Caitlyn Albert than simply go to the same.
Did you see that glance that she just gave him? That puppy dog, please don't kill me glance? If you missed it, go back a few seconds. It's you can't make this stuff up. She looked right at him like, don't murder me.
School system, is that right?
Yes.
One of these photographs has you on vacation with
Objection.
Caitlyn Albert drinking, correct?
Sustained.
You've been photographed with Miss Albert on many occasions at many celebrations with your girlfriends, correct?
Like a sidebar, please.
I'm going to allow that.
Is that right?
Been photographed on occasions with her.
On occasions, yes.
That wasn't my question, Your Honor.
Go ahead, ask
My
it.
question was, you've been photographed on many occasions and many celebrations with Caitlyn Albert and your girlfriends, that group of girls that you just looked at.
Yeah.
Nailed her! To the wall.
And those include, as we went over just a second ago, 4th of July vacations, correct?
I'm not sure the dates on them.
I didn't ask you about the dates. I don't know the dates either.
Well, I don't know that was a 4th of July celebration. I'm not sure.
Do you see a beach photo with American flags in the background?
I'm objecting.
Sustained.
So you've had, those photographs represent some of the celebrations that you have had with Caitlyn Albert and others in your friend group, correct?
I'm objecting.
Sustained.
You've gone on overnight vacations with Caitlyn Albert, isn't that right?
There was one that I can remember, one overnight that I can remember with a big group of people.
Who was that? Where was that?
That was in Maine.
It was in Bethel, Maine, wasn't it?
Could have been. It was in Maine.
Have you been to more than one vacation in Maine with Caitlyn Albert?
No, I don't know. That's the name of the town. I don't remember.
Just getting nervous.
You've indicated that you've had baby showers where you've attended with Caitlyn Albert, correct?
I was invited to a baby shower, not Caitlyn Albert's, but she was also invited to the baby shower.
Right, and the two of you posed for a photograph together, correct?
We posed around the girl that was having the baby.
Oh my God.
And who else?
A bunch of other girls, her friends.
Right, was one of them Caitlyn Albert?
She was in the photo, yeah.
She's standing right next to you in the photo?
She could have been. Is that in there?
Oh my God.
Next question, Mr. Jackson.
You indicated that the area that you were searching was relatively undisturbed snow. You said that in direct examination, correct?
It was undisturbed, yes, sir.
But the street, everything from the berm in, the street had been plowed, correct?
To a point, yes, sir.
All right, and so that would be disturbed snow.
Yeah, to a point, yes, sir.
And what was the point?
To where the snow that got plowed in it all rose up just like the end of your driveway would. There was a good 3 to 4 foot high barrier on each side of the street. Once you were able to knock down that initial barrier of snow, the level of snow dropped down to the normal depths that you would have seen in anyone's front lawn at that time, sir.
And is that what you're calling the undisturbed portion of the snow?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Lieutenant Tully told you that you were going to be looking for a man's shoe, a sneaker of some sort, or a shoe of some sort, correct?
He said sneaker, yes, sir.
And he told you that you'd be searching for plastic, red plastic potentially from a taillight. Is that right?
He said taillight pieces, yes, sir.
Did he indicate?
I mean, the guy has been moving around, but he keeps coming back. He keeps angling his face in just the most perfect angle. How do you do that?
That some of them would be red, some might be clear. Might be a combination of the two.
He didn't indicate a color either way, sir.
He did direct you to where he believed you should search. It was his direction that sort of gave you your grid coordinates, correct?
He indicated where the vehicle had been parked and where the victim's body had been located and suggested that was the primary area to search.
Did he tell you whether or not he knew from personal knowledge where John O'Keefe's body had been?
He did not, sir, no.
Did he tell you whether he had personal knowledge where any taillight material might be?
He did not know, sir.
Did he tell you that he had any personal knowledge where an impact site might have been?
He did not know.
Did he tell you that he had personal knowledge that there had been an impact site at the location?
No, he just said he believed the incident involved the vehicle.
Okay. One of your goals when looking at the search location was to obviously remove the snow as methodically as you could, correct?
Yes, sir.
You wanted to not only remove layers of snow, but then ultimately expose the layer beneath it with as little disturbance as possible. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
I think you noted that the plow had not plowed all the way to the curb, so the snowbank was sort of in the street, not in the yard, or at least a few inches from the curb line and not in the yard, correct?
Correct, sir. As I stated, as some of the responding members parked, they were thinking they were parking in a safe spot in the street, and their cruisers wound up being stuck at the end of the night.
And you and your team had some experience doing searches in snowy conditions, being from Massachusetts, I'm guessing.
Missing person searches, we've never been out for an evidence search in this specific type of conditions, but we have done missing person searches.
So this was the first time you and your team had executed a search of this nature in these kinds of conditions for these kinds of items?
In blizzard conditions, yes, for an evidence search, yes.
But you did indicate on direct examination that although it was blizzard conditions and the winds were high, and we've learned that windy conditions sort of define a blizzard in some respects, the visibility was relatively good.
Yeah, with our headlamps, we had pretty decent visibility.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about the techniques for conducting a search like this in some sort of snowfall. Obviously, as a specialist in searches, one of the things that you put as the highest priority is documenting exactly where the search is conducted, what techniques are used to conduct the search, and what, if anything, is found and exactly where it's found, correct?
Yes, documentation of your search is important, yes, sir.
You'd also want to document the time that things are found, correct?
Yes, you want those documented.
And you'd want to document the relative locations between and among items that are found. How close are they to each other? How close are they or far are they from a stable landmark, a static landmark, correct?
So we will mark items, sir.
Okay.
Measuring in between distances, they do get stamped when we mark our items. Measuring them would be at the discretion of the investigators themselves.
And obviously that would be among the best practices to clearly document how a search is conducted, correct?
Correct, sir.
Another way to document the evidence or the search is to do it through either video evidence or photographic techniques, right? Just photographing, forensic photographs of where things are found, contextual photographs moving into close-up photographs, correct?
That would be at the discretion of the detective, sir.
And in this case, that discretion lay with Lieutenant Tully, correct?
Yeah, he was the incident commander, correct, sir.
You indicated a number of hand tools that you brought with you to the search.
Why does he keep looking down? It's almost like he's got this feeling of embarrassment of like, yeah, I hate what I had to do, but I had to do it to protect my people. I didn't want to do it, but I have to do it. I don't want to be here, but I have to be here. Do you notice that? I'm getting that vibe from him. He doesn't seem to be like, I don't think he wants to be there. legitimately. Like, he does not want to protect these people, but he has to. He has no choice, and he knows it. Otherwise, he might be next on the chopping block. I mean, maybe not murder. Maybe they'll turn him into a vegetable, and he doesn't want that. I feel no remorse for him.
Sure that you had the tools necessary to get through the snow and get to the items that you were, if there were any items out there, to get to the items you were looking for. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And you did, in fact, remove layer by layer the snow and sort of sift through it as best you could, correct?
Yes, sir.
That also included some shovels where a shovel full of snow might be gathered and then turned over, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. That was done somewhat methodically, is that right?
Yes, it was, sir.
And you wanted to make sure that you weren't missing anything as you were digging through the top layers of snow and getting down to something closer to the surface, correct?
Correct, sir.
And at that time, what was the level of snow, if you can estimate it? How much snowfall?
I believe the area, not living that far from that location myself, was anywhere from 15 to 18 up to maybe 20 inches in certain towns.
And again, this is after 5:45, 5:48 in the evening of January 29th.
When the first item was discovered was 5:45.
12 hours after everyone is initially dispatched. So remember, the snowfall continued accumulating. If you remember the weather report, if you don't remember, go check out that video. He was the first honest witness in this entire trial, and so far the last.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The guy talking about the weather, I mean.
Obviously, a search of this complexity and with this many individuals and with those conditions required some level of significant coordination by you and your team, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had to account for all the personnel who were there, is that right?
Correct, sir.
That included, I'm going to go through a quick list, Bearden, Beausoleil, Carrier, Luis, O'Brien, O'Hara, you, and Biscardi, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So there were 7 individuals, as well, Lieutenant, as 7 vehicles to account for to make sure you're not driving over the wrong areas, walking over the wrong areas, standing over the wrong areas, correct?
Correct, sir.
And not only did you have to account for those 7 officers, each of whom arrived in their own vehicles, you also had to make sure that those vehicles were positioned in the right spot to make sure you don't drive over the area that you need to search and might be impacted by your cars, correct?
Yes, sir. After Lieutenant Tully arrived on scene, the remaining cruisers never came past the initial location of where we believe the incident occurred.
Before he came on scene, the cruisers that were there were down toward the driveway, closer to where you were, and you, of course, were positioned with your back to the location that ultimately was searched, correct?
Yes, sir. That was 2 of the 7 cruisers, yes.
Okay. Once you learned where you wanted to search, you literally had to sort of turn around, physically turn things around to begin searching behind where you had originally positioned yourself. No fault of your own, you just didn't know where to go. You had to sort of turn around and go backward toward the area of the flagpole, away from the area of the driveway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so as you began to focus on the other side of the house, the other side of the driveway, you had to actually reposition a couple of the cruisers. You didn't have to, but you chose to reposition a couple of the cruisers to turn their lights back around, correct?
Oh, that is correct, sir.
At some point, you've indicated that there were other individuals who you noticed were at the scene. Is that right?
Yes, there were non-cert members on scene, sir.
Okay. And those non-cert members included, or they numbered, at least 5 individuals, not including Lieutenant Tully. Is that right?
I believe that includes Lieutenant Tully, sir. I believe it was 5 total.
Okay, so 5 does include Lieutenant Tully. There were 4 others that were non-cert members, correct?
Correct, sir.
And those were members, I think you've earlier testified that those were members of either Massachusetts State Police or Canton Police or both. Is that right?
I believe it was both, yes, sir.
And you did not recognize those individuals?
I recognized one of the State Police members. I believe a second one was also a State Police member that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
And then 2 other members that I believe were Canton Police, but again, not familiar with them.
And these individuals were, obviously, it's dark. You're not paying attention to them. You're not paying attention to what they're doing. They probably have hats and hoods and gloves on, I'm guessing.
Well, they didn't arrive on scene right away, so we were already well into our search before they even arrived on scene. The only one who was on scene originally was Lieutenant Tully.
If you weren't paying close attention to those 4 officers, those additional 4 officers, how do you know exactly what time they arrived on scene?
They weren't in the area we were searching, so they came on scene after we were already on our line searching, sir.
So they may have been in the area, but you didn't see them until your line search had already begun, and you made note of them, correct?
Correct. I don't know when the exact time they arrived on scene, sir, but they weren't on scene when we started our search.
Or they weren't in your vision when they started their search?
No, they weren't on scene, sir.
Okay. But you don't know, as you sit here, you can't say what time they showed up.
I do not know, sir.
And did they come at your direction?
They did not.
Did they come in the direction of any of your staff members, any of your colleagues?
No, we did not request them, sir.
Okay. So they were there for some reason other than why you were there.
That's correct, sir.
These individuals, you noted they were either from, I think you said 2 from Massachusetts State Police and 2 from Canton Police, correct?
Yeah, including Lieutenant Tully, probably three MSP and 2 Canton Police, sir.
Okay. Excluding Lieutenant Tully, who was working very closely with you, the other 4 individuals, they were in full uniform or they were plain clothes?
Plain clothes, sir.
And your focus, once you began your search, once you stood up the team, turned your cars around, and realized exactly the grid where you were going to search, that's when what your focus was on, correct?
Yeah, I was focused on our search area, correct, sir.
And when you're searching a line, for instance, if it's a line that extends to your right or to your left, the search that you're conducting is literally right directly in front of you, correct?
Well, you're always looking left or right because you're staying online with your teammates, so you always have a full view of the scene you're searching, sir.
I'm not saying that you look down and never look up again, but I'm saying that your focus, the main focus of your search, is directly in front of you. That's why
Right.
you do a line search, so you can take small steps,
Right.
search in front of you, move forward, search in front of you as a line, almost an entity, a single entity moving forward, correct?
That is best practice, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's how you make sure you don't miss an overturned leaf that you need to overturn, that there might be a knife under or a gun under or something like that, or a bullet casing, something like that, correct?
Correct, sir.
Or a tail light, right?
Correct, sir.
All right, so as your focus is, your world sort of collapses a little bit. Your focus is in front of you. You're obviously working with your team members left and right. You're moving forward very, very gently, very methodically, very technically as you move forward, and the whole line moves forward on that grid, correct?
Correct, sir.
So
It's
you're
a
not
very,
necessarily paying attention.
just so you know, it's a very antiquated way that has always worked and will work. You basically just form a line and you just move together and everybody searches the area. It's been done for hundreds of years. Nothing's changed. And it's a proven thing because you cover more ground that way. And the chances of missing something are a lot less.
Attention to what's happening behind you, off in the distance, in the dark, to your left far, to your right far. That's not what your focus is on, at least at that moment, correct?
No, sir. Our focus is forward as we're moving forward into our search area.
Thank you. In addition to the 5 individuals, Lieutenant Tully included, and the other 4, there was also another person that made contact with you from 34th Airview, correct?
Yes, when we first arrived on scene, someone had exited the residence onto the front steps, front porch area, possibly, of that mudroom.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Of that mudroom, so that right door, the exit, the door closest to the garage, sir.
Can you describe that person for us?
It was an adult male wearing a hooded sweatshirt.
Did that person approach you or one of your team members?
No, he never left the front door area.
Did he say anything to you or one of the team members?
He asked if we were here for what happened earlier. We replied yes, and he turned and went back inside the residence.
And as you sit here, you don't know who that person is.
I do not, sir, no.
But he's a male, I'm guessing middle-aged,
It was not a child, sir. It was definitely an adult male, sir.
adult male wearing a hooded sweatshirt.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
He came out,
Testify.
said, "Hey, you guys here for the dead body?" "Yes, we are." "All right, carry on." Yeah, because that's normal.
You testified that you recovered a piece of plastic first before you recovered the shoe, or do I have that backwards?
No, there was one piece of taillight located before the shoe, sir.
Understood. You've also indicated that of the, I think you said 6 or 7 total pieces of plastic that were found, that all of those pieces of plastic and the shoe were found basically right next to each other, correct?
I don't know the exact distances, but they weren't too far apart, some several inches to others maybe a foot or two. I don't know the exact distances, sir.
Isn't it true that it was actually a Canton police officer who coordinated that interview with you?
I have no knowledge of that at all.
Oh.
Isn't it true that the Canton police officer who set up the interview with Massachusetts State Police and coordinated that interview was a detective named Kevin? Do you remember that?
I have no knowledge of that.
Isn't it true that Brian Albert has a brother named Kevin Albert on Canton Police Department?
I know that now.
Isn't that who coordinated your interview with Michael Proctor?
I've never spoken to Kevin Albert, ever.
You can't remember who it was that set up the meeting. How can you say with such specificity?
Because it was the state police called me. The state police called me. It was a state trooper.
Can you wait till I'm
Just
finished with my
hold on
question?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, she is getting rattled. She is getting really rattled. First, she's like, oh, I absolutely don't remember who set it up. Oh, actually, no, it was a state trooper. Oh, it was definitely not a kid. You see the progression? She's artificially creating the story in her head, and she's spitting it out as she's processing. She's manufacturing this as she's going along. This is 100% all fabrication, all lies. She knows the truth, and either she's hiding it or she's trying to misremember it intentionally.
If you can't remember who it was that called you specifically, how can you say with such specificity that you've never spoken to Kevin Albert?
Because I have only ever talked about this case with a state police trooper. So there were two of them there when I went for the interview. I don't remember which one called me, but I've never been contacted by anyone in the Canton police about an interview or about the case. So I know it's not. I just don't know which state trooper it was that called me.
Did you talk to Mr. Brennan about this issue when y'all met?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Never came up
No,
about Kevin Albert or the Massachusetts State Police or your first interview?
no.
he told her what to say, Brennan.
You remember testifying about this last year?
I remember you asking me about who coordinated the interview.
And now as you sit here, you're saying it was absolutely 100% Massachusetts State Police that coordinated that interview.
I only ever spoke to the state police about that interview. I wasn't contacted by anyone else to go in for that interview.
Are you saying that you now have a specific memory of how that interview was set up and that it was Massachusetts State Police?
My only memory is,
Do you have a memory or do
Can she
you
answer the question, please?
I don't really get the question.
Can you
I don't really get the question.
I don't understand the question.
ask it again?
Sure. Are you saying as you sit here now
She's a real
that
thick
you have a
one.
memory
She's a real thick one, isn't she?
of how that interview was set up and it was by a Massachusetts State Police officer?
I always had a memory that it was a state police officer.
Okay.
I don't know which one. That's why I said I don't know.
Isn't it true that last year you were asked that very similar question? Do you recall being contacted by a completely different officer to say, hey, Trooper Proctor wants to talk to you. Come on to Canton PD. He wants to have an interview. Answer, I don't remember exactly how the interview was set up. Remember that?
Right.
So as you sit here, you now have a specific memory that that interview was set up by Massachusetts police officers.
Oh, great question. So last year you couldn't remember, but this year suddenly your memory came back to you. Ah, very interesting. Explain yourself. Answer for your crimes, Katie.
That's the only memory I have of it. And when I said I don't know, you said somebody other than Proctor, and I didn't know if you were referring to the other state trooper that was there, because I didn't remember specifically who called me to come in for the interview. But I've never spoken to anybody in the Canton police about that interview or that setup.
In fact, Kevin Albert,
I'm aware of that now.
you're aware that Kevin Albert is Caitlin Albert's uncle.
I guess so.
How many conversations did you have with anybody before you actually sat down with Michael Proctor? Either in anticipation of setting up the interview or otherwise?
None. I think once I got the call, I just called my chief that they're asking me to come in, and that was that.
And you got the call from whom?
I don't know which state trooper called me.
But as you sit here now, you're very specific in your memory, it was a state trooper.
I only ever met with state troopers, and no one from the Canton Police ever contacted me about an interview, setting up an interview.
During your interview with Michael Proctor, did you disclose to Trooper Proctor that you had a pre-existing relationship with any member of the Albert family?
No.
Did Michael Proctor disclose to you during that interview that he had any kind of relationship with the Albert family?
Objection.
Sustained.
I want to talk to you for a second about your role when you did, in fact, arrive at 34 Fairview, East McLaughlin. How long had you been a firefighter paramedic at that time, January 29th, 2022?
Probably about 5 years.
You said that you had responded to hundreds, you believe it was possibly hundreds of calls, is that right?
Possibly.
How many were homicides?
None that I know of.
So this would be the first one,
Oh, wow.
January 29th, 2022.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And obviously, if you had never responded to a homicide before, you certainly had never responded to a homicide of a police officer before, correct?
Correct.
I think you indicated as much on direct examination that you were not and are not now a trained detective, is that right?
Right.
You never conducted any sort of a formal investigation called a criminal investigation, had you?
No.
You hadn't been trained, you had no advanced training on how to preserve or interpret statements or memorialize statements for evidentiary purposes?
No.
Or for the use in trial, things of that nature?
Nope.
In fact, your role that morning was just to provide medical assistance and pretty much nothing else, is that right?
Yes.
And you'll agree that it was a somewhat chaotic scene, right?
Yes.
Lots of first responders on scene, right?
Yes.
Everybody working furiously, or at least people working furiously to provide life-saving measures to John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes.
People were talking over each other. There was a cacophony of engine sounds and noises coming from people talking and trying to speak over the wind and the howling, the driving snow and wind that was coming down, snow that was coming down, is that right?
Yes.
You hear people in the background, in the foreground, people talking over each other.
Yes.
Emotions, your emotions, everybody else's emotions were on high alert, is that right?
Yes.
So you were trying to do your job under pretty intense pressure and in a very limited context, correct?
Yes.
You didn't have a tape recorder with you when you were asking my client any questions, did you?
No, of course not.
No audio recording of that conversation you claim took place between you and Miss Reed, is that right?
Not that I know of.
And you've already indicated that you didn't even follow up with a single question when she responded in the way that you've indicated she responded, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because I hit him. Anyway, calm down, lady. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Really? Really? You just brushed it off like Jen McCabe was like, oh, you need to calm down, honey. We all know you didn't do it. We all know that it was me. I mean, somebody else that buried, oops. This is getting so old, you guys.
You heard where I hit him, is that right?
Correct.
It's your experience that people under pressure, people under stress, because you go to high-stress situations all the time as a firefighter paramedic, correct?
Correct.
People in those kind of situations speak in broken sentences or rhetorical questions, correct? Not uncommon.
People react differently at, different scenes.
But you
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't say that that's uncommon. Oh my God, what happened? What happened? Things of that nature.
No.
Did you hear my client ask the question of confusion or a series of questions of confusion? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?
I did not hear that.
You never heard her say anything close to, did I hit him or could I have hit him?
I did not.
Ms. McLaughlin, where are your notes regarding this statement?
I don't have any.
A woman is allegedly admitting to murder, accidentally, homicide, potentially, right in front of you, and you're just like, I don't need any notes on that. That's not important. We believe you, Ms. McLaughlin. We believe you.
Assigning an exact measurement down to the millimeter, Lieutenant, you've earlier indicated that all of the pieces and the shoe, relative to each other, it's just relative to each other, were found within a foot or so of each other, correct?
Eyeball, again, as the distance that I just said, sir, from inches to maybe a couple of feet. I know they all are geomarked with exact coordinates that, could be measured out at a later time, which, again, would have been at the purview of the detectives, but we did not measure them. Again, all eyeball that night.
Understood. when I say, and it may have been a bad question on my part, Lieutenant, and if it was, I apologize. When I say a foot, within a foot of each other, I don't mean a foot apart. All of them you've earlier testified would be inside of a foot total, correct? Or maybe 2 feet now?
I don't think they'd be quite that close, sir. I think they were maybe in between each item, sir, or close to it.
I have just a moment, Your Honor. Okay. I know this isn't necessarily a memorization contest about your prior testimony, but do you remember testifying about this specific
impeachment
issue? Here I go again. I can't speak. This specific issue about a year ago, another, back in 2022 at a grand jury.
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay. Do you remember exactly how you described where everything was with relative, May 5th, is that a fact at the grand jury?
Okay.
Relative to each other, do you remember how you testified exactly?
I believe I said within a few inches or a foot away. Yes, sir.
Excellent memory. You've rattled off times and dates like I've never seen before. So it's exactly what you said. So within a few inches of each other, maybe a foot is what you said, correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if it's maybe within a foot, this is an 11 and a half by 8.5 piece of paper, maybe an area a little larger than this, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Oh, the
As
smirk.
you found items of evidence, did you alert Lieutenant Tully to that specific piece of evidence?
Yes, so I was not one of the members who found any of the evidence, but as my team members located something, we would halt the line. Lieutenant Tully was a short distance behind our line. We would go out, get his attention. We would cease our operations until he informed us that he felt it was properly documented.
And ultimately, Lieutenant Tully was the person responsible for documenting that item, is that right?
That is, sir. We fall under the incident command structure. He technically took the lead as the incident commander that night, sir.
And he did that through photography?
Yes, sir.
So you saw him taking pictures of the items in their place once they were found, correct?
Yeah, I believe he was the one taking photographs, sir.
And by definition, Lieutenant, as a search like this is being conducted, unfortunately, moving snow means possibly moving the items themselves, correct?
Potentially, yes, sir.
Because they might end up in a shovel full of snow, you turn it upside down. That's not where the piece of evidence was to begin with, correct?
Correct. It's been moved at that point.
But in this case, nearly all of the pieces that you did find, including the shoe, were nearly next to each other, meaning within inches of one another, correct?
I don't know the exact distance again, sir. Ballpark eye distance, but again, that is why we provided the GPS coordinates of each location, because we did stamp those with a handheld GPS as we found items of evidence, and all those locations were turned over with our report to be measured at the desire of the detectives, sir.
Certainly, using that very impressive memory of yours, your memory back in May of 2022, May 5th of 2022, was that they were within inches of each other.
I believe that's what I stated, yes, sir.
Okay.
So that's what I stated, but it's not the truth, right? What is he trying to say? He's like, that's what I stated, therefore that's the truth, buddy.
Ultimately, you indicated that the search, after about 6 or 7 pieces were found, as well as the shoe, the search was suspended just after 6 o'clock, correct?
Approximately 6:15-ish, sir, we stopped. We'd gone, like I stated earlier, we'd gone approximately 8 to 10 feet further south on the road without recovering any other pieces of taillight. We knew we had already located the sneaker, so we decided to suspend the search at that time until possibly a future date.
And you were never called back out to the scene by Lieutenant Tully or anybody else, correct?
No, we were not, sir.
And did you become aware that over the next days and weeks and days and several weeks, there would be 40 more pieces of taillight claimed to be recovered at the scene? Did you become aware of that or no?
I was aware other pieces were located. I did not know that was the number, and I don't know exactly when I became aware of that. It was probably much later on, possibly at this location when I learned that information, sir.
And you don't know, as you sit here, you don't know whom it was that recovered those additional pieces, correct?
No, I've never seen the evidence log, sir.
And you don't know when those additional pieces were claimed to have been.
I do not know.
When Lieutenant Tully and you had a conversation about shutting down the scene, was Lieutenant Tully's comment to you after those first few pieces were found that he was, quote, very satisfied that you had recovered everything that you were going to recover from that night, from that search?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why? Why?
Mr. Brennan asked you about the conversation that you had with Lieutenant Tully to shut the scene down, to clear the scene, correct?
Yes, so we conducted a debrief, and I gave him, again, as I mentioned earlier, we provide a probability of detection. I tell him what the chances are. I think we found our items we were looking for, and we determined to suspend the search.
Do you remember testifying last year that Lieutenant Tully indicated that he was very satisfied with what was found?
I don't know if I used the word very satisfied, but he was satisfied that evening that we had found everything we were going to find that night, sir.
And you didn't. And you did not. Because there's tons more to be found. How is it possible that the pieces of plastic, if they were buried under the snow, some of them would actually appear on top of the snow? Did they grow legs and crawl up under the snow? What?
With regard to the passenger side taillight, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA to that taillight attached to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe. Is that fair to say?
He was included into the profile.
With regard to the other 2 contributors, who were they?
They could be anybody.
Were you ever asked to compare DNA samples from either Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert or Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz to the DNA profile that you analyzed from that passenger side taillight?
I was not.
Now, with regard to the broken drinking glass, which is item 3-2.1.1, do you see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to that, you came up with a DNA profile that also had 3 contributors, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe, correct?
He was included, correct.
Who were the other 2 contributors?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Were you ever asked with regard to that broken drinking glass to compare the DNA profile that you analyzed with the DNA of either Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert or ATF agent Brian Higgins?
I was not.
Oh.
Now, with regard to 7.1.2.1, or maybe it's 7-1.2.1, that's the stain A from the upper right leg of the jeans?
Correct.
All right. And you were aware, you were told that those were the jeans that John O'Keefe was wearing on the morning in question when he was found?
Based on the sample description, that's what it seems.
All right. And it turned out that his DNA was on his own jeans, correct?
He was included in the profile.
All right. And that was unsurprising to you, correct?
I mean, the jury heard it.
And with
Keep going,
regard to
Yannetti.
that item, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA, correct?
Correct.
With John O'Keefe being one of them.
He was included in the profile, yes.
And who were the
Remember Jackson's opening? The DNA of 5 men was found in John O'Keefe's shoe. 5 men. This is crucial because this is now where Yannetti is going. Now on cross-examination with the guy that they were promised is going to be cross-examined in this trial. Now you have to deliver on that promise. Oh, this is good.
other 2?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Let's move on to stain B, also from the upper right leg of the jeans. That is 7-1.3.1. You see that in your report.
Another defense witness.
When
Just
you
flipped. Just watch.
found a DNA profile, how many contributors of DNA were there?
3 contributors.
All right. And again, this was John O'Keefe's jeans, correct?
Based on the description, yes.
So he was one of the 3 contributors.
He was included in the profile, yeah.
Who were the other 2?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Moving on to stain C from the upper right leg of the jeans. 7-1.4.1. You see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to the DNA profile that you analyzed there, how many contributors of DNA were there to that profile?
At least 2, and it was interpreted as 2 contributors.
And again, this is the same pair of jeans that he was found in, correct?
Based on the description, yes.
And you said at least 2 contributors. It actually could have been more than 2.
Based on our protocols, I had to call it 2, and we determined it as 2, but it could be more than 2, yes.
Okay. Well, let's pay attention to the one that was not John O'Keefe, at least that one. Who contributed that DNA to his pants?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
Moving on to stain D, which is 7-1.5.1. And if I can just put my glasses on to make sure I've read my own writing correctly. Actually, is it 7-15-1? Did I get that wrong the first time?
D?
I'm sorry?
Do you mean
stain
stain D?
Stain D.
Stain D is 7-1.5.1.
Oh, I had it right the first time. Okay. With regard to that stain, you also got a DNA profile, and how many contributors were there to that DNA profile?
I interpret it as 3 contributors.
And again, this John O'Keefe's genes, correct?
Correct.
He was one of the contributors to his own genes, correct?
He was included in the profile.
And with regard to that stain on the upper right leg of his jeans, who contributed the DNA to who were the other 2 contributors of DNA to that stain?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
And then finally, with regard to that upper right leg of the jeans, there was also a stain E, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors did you find to that DNA profile?
2 contributors.
One of which was John O'Keefe to his own genes, correct?
He was included, yes.
And who was the other contributor to that stain on the jeans?
It could be anybody. I don't know.
And by the way, just for the record, that was 7.1.6.1?
7-1.61.
7-1.6.1. Thank you, sir. Okay, now, with regard to the unstained area of the exterior of the jeans, do you see item 7-1.7.1?
Yes.
You found a DNA profile with regard to that unstained area as well, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors of DNA were there to that unstained area of the jeans?
I interpreted it as 4 contributors.
And John O'Keefe was one of those, correct?
He was included in the profile.
His own genes.
Based on the description, yes.
Who were the other 3 contributors to that DNA profile?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
What I want to know is, across all contributors, is there a match from stain to stain? Like, let's say, stain A's got 2 contributors, stain B has 3 contributors, stain C has 2 contributors, stain D has 4 contributors. I'm curious if there's any consistency between like stains A, B, C, and D. Yes, you have one as John O'Keefe clearly, and this one is person A, and this one is John O'Keefe person A, and there's person B. And if there's a uniformity of DNA from stain to stain, you know what I mean? So it's not just like, because we know it's true, but I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if this guy's sufficiently qualified to answer that question. Maybe why Yannetti hasn't asked it yet, but he's not there yet. But that's the burning question in my mind, and I imagine it's probably the burning question in the jurors' minds. Is this DNA consistent across stains? Meaning, is it the same person, or is it like just like a bunch of people? Like, 5 contributors here, 4 here, 3 here, 2 here. Do you stack them? That's like 17 different people. Or do you run them concurrent? Like that stain and that stain, that's the same person. That stain, that stain, that stain, and that stain, that DNA is the same other person. You see what I'm talking about?
And before we move on to the sneaker, I just wanted to ask you a question about the passenger side taillight that I neglected to ask you. That was the one where there were 3 contributors, correct? And again, I'm going back to 3-1.1.
Correct.
Sorry to skip around, sir. I'm not trying to make this
any
more confusing than it is. With regard to the passenger side taillight and that DNA profile, are you able to determine when that DNA was deposited on the passenger side taillight that was attached to the vehicle?
No, I'm not.
Are you able to testify with any certainty that it was deposited there, say, on January 28th or 29th of 2022?
No, I can't.
So, consistent with your analysis of it, are you able to say whether it occurred prior to January 28th of 2022?
No, I can't.
Were you aware that that vehicle was John O'Keefe's girlfriend's vehicle?
I was not.
Were you provided any
What?
information about just how often he had been in and around that vehicle prior to January 28th of 2022?
He didn't know?
So moving on to 7-3.1, which was the right instep of the sneaker, correct? You see that in your report?
Yep.
With regard to that particular stain, you noted how many contributors of DNA?
Yeah, it was interpreted as at least 5 contributors.
And when you have interpreted as at least 5 contributors, what does that do to your ability to find out who contributed that DNA?
So based on our protocols, we're not able to do any comparisons to any mixtures that are 5 or more contributors, so it's not suitable for comparisons.
Okay, which means that with regard to the sneaker at least, you couldn't even say whether John O'Keefe's DNA was on it, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to all 5, do you have any idea who contributed the DNA to that sneaker?
No, I don't.
Did you consider whether there may have been other reasons as to why his body reached that temperature of 80 degrees? Sort of applying the scientific method and seeing if there were other reasons?
Other than being out in the snow? No, I do not.
Do you know whether there are other alternative reasons how his body could reach the temperature of 80 degrees?
People can become hypothermic for other reasons, such as sepsis. But in this particular case, I didn't have any reason to believe that that was part of the circumstances.
Why does she keep closing her eyes like that? I don't like that at
You're
all.
familiar with the medical phrase differential diagnosis, correct?
Yes.
And a differential diagnosis is a term that's used by doctors to pursue other potential causes of a medical injury. Is that a fair general statement?
Yes.
So, for example, if somebody is having difficulty breathing, a doctor may say, I think it's the heart is their primary hypothesis, but they may want to differentially diagnose this and look at the lungs. Is that an example of a differential diagnosis let's look at the lungs to see if that may be the problem? Is that a good, fair example?
In the example you're giving, yes.
So applying that concept, and do you believe the concept of, applying that concept to this situation, did you perform a differential diagnosis as to the cause of the death and question whether there was hypothermia as any cause of the death of the decedent? Did you make that analysis?
I looked at the anatomic findings that I had at the time of autopsy, the information that was provided to me based on the circumstances and where the body was found, and I came to the conclusion that there were hypothermic changes in Mr. O'Keefe's body.
A house long to die in the cold. And by the way, folks, if I ever die, please don't let me be cut open by this woman. Dear Mother of God.
So you just used the phrase hypothermic changes. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Can there be hypothermic changes without a cause of death being hypothermia?
Yes, of course.
So you can have signs in the body of hypothermia, but you can also conclude that a cause of death is not from hypothermia, correct?
If the person is deceased and I am examining the body and there are multiple things that I believe contribute to the death, then I tend to include all of them. Meaning that if this was a drug intoxication,
Blunt force trauma to the
and
head.
the body also showed signs of hypothermia, I would include both of them on the death certificate, because there is no scientific way of teasing out whether it was just one or the other or both. In this particular case, I had
two processes that were going on. One was the head trauma,
Aha!
and the other one were these hypothermic changes. It put all that together, and again, included or took into account the investigative information of where the body was found, what the temperature was when the body was found, whether the person was still alive or not. And I came to the conclusion that the cause of death was blunt impact injuries of head. And I included the hypothermia because I saw during the autopsy that there were changes consistent with hypothermia.
Notice how defensive she's getting, because she knows where Alessi is going. Alessi is about to cream this woman. For real. Check this out. Alessi is setting the stage to show that there could have been the cause of death as a result of the blunt force trauma to the head. You assumed it was hypothermia, but you just admitted that there is no medical way of determining which one was the one that caused the death, unless you like had eyes on the deceased before he was dying, or excuse me, before he was dead, like as he was dying, and then you can determine like, oh, it looks like this was the cause of death. And even that would be difficult, I think, because I'm not a doctor, I'm just a lawyer. This woman is about to be torn to pieces, folks, and I am here for it. Let's continue.
So I want to break that down a little bit, if I could, with you. So you testified on direct, and I think you alluded to it here, that the primary cause of death, use that phraseology on direct, was blunt force injury. Is that correct?
Blunt impact injuries to the head, yes.
Blunt impact injuries to the head, and that's the primary cause, right?
Correct.
And then there's, and I'm not clear on what you referred to on direct as a secondary cause of death of hypothermia, but you've used a little different phrase in some of your answers, and I want to make sure I got it right. Hypothermic considerations. Can you repeat what it was?
I said have hypothermic changes.
Hypothermic changes, and we agree that you can have hypothermic changes without a conclusion of hypothermia, correct?
No, hypothermic changes are what I'm referring to are actual things that I can see in the organs that are consistent with hypothermia. They're anatomic findings. They're things I can see with my eyes.
So you can, I'm sorry, did you finish?
And those changes suggest and are consistent with someone being hypothermic.
As you sit here now, with regard to, you used the phraseology consistent with hypothermia, signs of hypothermia, that's what I want to pursue just a little bit with regard to further information. We got started on this by asking whether you used the concept of differential diagnosis and hypotheses to determine the cause and manner of death. And you said in one of your answers that you relied upon law enforcement information, correct? Is that
Yes.
part of it? It was, you brought that up. You're the one who said you relied upon that, correct?
Yes.
And you've brought that up on your direct testimony and earlier in the cross. Is that correct, that you relied upon the investigation of law enforcement? So,
Sustained.
so now what I'd like to do is to ask you whether, using the concepts of differential diagnosis, scientific method, did you consider whether Mr. O'Keefe could have died somewhere other than where the body was found and been moved and placed in the snow? Did you consider that?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Move along with this. We can approach in a bit.
Oh, shut
Thank
up, Bev.
What, if any, alternative diagnoses did you apply to Mr. O'Keefe?
I don't understand your question.
What alternative scenarios did you look at, if any,
She hasn't. He knows the answer.
for the cause or manner of death of Mr. O'Keefe?
I'll allow that question. What, if any?
At the time of the autopsy, I documented injuries and signs of hypothermia. I was provided with a set of circumstances, and at the end of the investigation, or at the end of, my timeline, I concluded on the cause, but I did not conclude,
On the
or I did
manner.
not determine a
Yes.
manner.
Oh, yes.
The manner would be the circumstances you are speaking about, whether I considered other causes or circumstances.
Right.
That's not how it works. I don't come up with hypothetical scenarios on how those injuries occur. I try to state the injuries, describe the injuries, state the cause of death and why that person died. And then I use all kinds of other investigative information that is provided to me to determine if I have enough to make a determination on the manner.
Did anyone provide to you any alternatives as to the finding of the body of Mr. O'Keefe in the snow?
Personally, to me, no.
Did you ask for any alternatives
Of course she didn't.
to the nature and location of the injury or death of Mr. O'Keefe?
I asked for all the information that was available.
Understood, but my question is, did you ask for any alternatives
Specifically.
to the information that was provided to you as regards the location of the injuries? Did anyone provide you any alternatives to where the injuries could have occurred?
No.
So,
I'm going to let the answer stand. So the answer is no, so there's no evidence of that. So next question.
So you talked about the information you had at the time. What time is that?
The information at the time was a preliminary police report and verbal communications
And
regarding the circumstances of how Mr. O'Keefe's body was found.
when I asked about the time, I'm not calendar time. Was this January, February, March, April of 2022?
The preliminary police report was on the day of the autopsy, and then information, I don't remember exactly how long, but in the weeks following, information was, coming in.
How long till you got all the information, Scortibello? Sorry, I had to.
Do you have the ability to amend a death certificate?
Yes, I do.
And you can amend a certificate if you obtain further information with regard to the circumstances surrounding the death. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm a very powerful woman. You can tell it's written all over her face.
You're talking about the information you had at the time. And I'm concluding that the latest that would be is April of 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
Isn't it correct that for hypothermia in the presence of Wisniewski's ulcers or spots, that you have to have a predominance of the stomach covered by the spots for them to be Wisniewski ulcers?
We're about to get really scientific here, folks. Buckle up. Wisniewski ulcers, where are we going with this? This is interesting.
I think there's different levels and different grades.
In hypothermia, particularly death from hypothermia, wouldn't you expect to see a predominance of those ulcers, meaning they take up most of the stomach lining? Isn't that what you would expect to see?
Not always. I have seen that. I have also seen cases with much fewer spots, as you refer to them.
I see. Okay, so basically, since she refused to admit that blunt force trauma to the head could have been the contributing factor to John O'Keefe's death, hypothermia being the secondary factor, she kind of flipped them. Very common in cover-up cases where medical examiners will flip the primary cause of death with the secondary cause of death and making the secondary primary and the primary secondary to make it look like the death happened from something other than what really happened. And they have the easiest cover because there is no degree of medical certainty that you can create that is going to say, no, it's A versus B, you know. So now Alessi is taking something very specific from the medical literature, okay? For those of you, stay with me. This is fascinating. And I'll explain. I'll break it down for you. It's quite complicated, and I will break it down for you all. So essentially, when a human body dies of hypothermia, and pure hypothermia, nothing else, there are going to be certain changes that the body goes through. It's a gradual change, right? So imagine if John O'Keefe truly he wasn't even hit by a car. Okay, let's pretend for just a second that John O'Keefe was just so drunk, he just passed out in the cold and accidentally died. Okay, no other injuries. His body would go through a transformation from a living, breathing human being with body temperature slowly dropping all the way to a dangerous threshold, and eventually his heart would stop and he will die, okay? So during those changes, the body goes through a certain transformation, and these ulcers get created in the stomach, I guess. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't understand a lot of this medical literature, but this is fairly straightforward. And like I said, breaking it down for you, it basically is these ulcers get created, apparently. They both seem to agree. They disagree as to the degree of how much they appear. So Alessi is saying these ulcers would have appeared if he died purely of hypothermia. Over time, they would appear. But if he had been inside the house, the snot was beat out of him, and he was either on the brink of death or already dead, and then his deceased body or near deceased body dropped out into the snow, you don't have that entire window, right? When he's drunk and falls in the snow and falls asleep, in my hypothetical example, he's out there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours before he actually succumbs to the cold and dies. If it only took him like 20, 30 minutes to die, these ulcers would not be created because his cause of death is not hypothermia. Hypothermia was a contributory factor, but it wasn't the primary factor. You see the difference? So now he's talking about these ulcers, hopefully getting her to admit, yes, you should see a lot of them. But she's like, no. Sometimes you can see few. Let's see if Alessi's got any more arrows in his quiver. I'm sure he does.
Isn't the majority of the cases that you have seen where someone has actually died from hypothermia that the ulcers predominate, take up greater than 50% of the stomach?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
And what percentage of the, and I'm trying to avoid putting it up again, so what percentage of the gastric mucosa of Mr. O'Keefe would you estimate is taken up by the ulcers that you have identified?
I would say somewhere between 10, 15%.
Wow.
Just 10 and 15%. Thank you.
Wow. That's low.
Now, if we could...
And that is proof, once again, that is proof, maybe not 100% solidified proof, because she just said, I don't know if it's true or not, that sometimes you'll have less. Maybe it's true, I don't know. But the fact that it's not as high as it should be shows that hypothermia is not a contributory factor to John O'Keefe's death, or at least a primary one. And she listed it as the cause of death. That's huge. Very important.
Look to the issue of continuing with hypothermia. Let's go to frostbite.
Oh.
And I was also given items for some items of plastic for comparison. So that is a photograph that I took upon examination. It is the clear glass cup item 3-2. And I'm holding another piece, which again, I believe it's one of the pieces from item 7-12. I would need to confirm in my file, but I'm showing that one of the pieces physically fits with item 3-2. So this is the photo that I took of item 7-12 as I received it. So there's the several pieces of clear glass with broken irregular edges.
For those of you who have been around since trial number 1, do you remember her? I remember her testifying in trial number 1, essentially the same testimony, but we got to set the stage for those of you who may have not heard her testimony yet. And by the way, let me know in the comments below if you trust her and if you find her trustworthy. I'm curious what people are thinking. And as you're scrolling down, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you get more of this content. All right, let's go.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9477.
So those are the same pieces of glass as in the previous photo, just a little bit more up close of the clear glass that was recovered and is item 7-12.
What, if any, conclusions did you make in reference to your comparison between those two items?
Sure. So upon comparing those items, I did note that 6 of the 9 pieces of clear apparent glass had a physical match to item 3-2, the clear glass cup.
And if you could just remind the jury, as far as a physical match, what does that mean?
So a physical match is basically if an item breaks and those items have broken irregular edges, if those pieces come back together like a jigsaw fit, then it's a physical match and they were at one time together as one larger unit.
Now, as far as each of those items within 7-12 had a letter associated with them, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall which of the 6 were a physical match for item 3-2, the glass?
I would just need to refer to my notes for the exact letters.
Sure, you can take your report out.
The 6 pieces of glass from item 7-12 that physically fit to item 3-2 were A, B, C, D, F, and K.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this first, I'm sorry. So, Ms. Hanley, during the course of this physical match analysis that you're conducting, are you memorializing that process with photographs as well?
Yes, I am. So this is one of the photos that I took of one of the breaks that physically fit together between item 3-2 and item 7-12.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9514. And again, Ms. Hanley, can you please describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
Sure. So this is a photo that I took when I was doing my comparison of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12.
Now, as far as the individual pieces had sort of little white stickers or labels affixed to them, is that correct?
Yeah.
It's like puzzles, only for professional adults. It's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Is that something that you did, or is that something that when the items were provided to you was already done?
So item 7-12, I received those pieces with the labels already on them.
And again, those items, especially 7-12, had been with mixed veneer in your unit prior to coming to your table or your station, correct?
Yes. So this is another photograph that I took of the physical match. It's just another view. of the items together of item 3-2 and several pieces from item 7-12. So this is another picture that I took of the items, just slightly rotated, of item 3-2 with a physical fit to several items or several pieces from item 7-12. This is a photo of the 5 total pieces that are from item 3-3. This is the photo that I took of item 7-14.
Did you also compare pieces from item 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude in your physical match analysis of those items together?
So upon examining and comparing item 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14, I had concluded that 6 of the 9 pieces of glass from 7-12 physically fit with item 3-2, and the remaining 3 of the 9 from 7-12 did not have a physical fit to item 3-2. I also compared item 3-2 and 7-12 to 7-14, but there was no physical match to item 7-14.
Now, in addition to that, did you also do a physical match analysis between item 3-2, the drinking glass, 7-12, pieces found from the roadway, and certain pieces from 3-3 from the bumper of the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude based on that physical match analysis between those items?
So upon examining and comparing those items, so there were 5 total pieces of glass from item 3-3. I used 2 of those pieces for physical match comparison to the items recovered from the road. Upon my examination, I did not, there was no physical match between those 2 pieces from item 3-3 to any of the pieces recovered from the road. So that included items 3-2, 7-12, and 7-14.
Remember, folks, we are setting the stage, so don't turn that dial, because trust me, it is about to go down.
Now, as far as the 2 pieces that you had selected from item 3-3, do you recall which of those 2 lettered pieces you chose for your comparative analysis?
Yes.
And which were they?
They were pieces A and B.
And if I could ask, why pieces A and B versus other pieces?
So A and B were used for physical match. The remaining 3 of the 5 were not used for physical match comparison due to their size and condition.
Now, those same 2 pieces from item 3-3, pieces A and B, did you then do a physical match analysis between that and 7-14?
I did.
And what did you conclude from that analysis?
I concluded that there was no physical match between the 2 pieces from item 3-3 to item 7-14.
Now, did you also do a physical match analysis between piece E from item 3-3 from the bumper?
I did not. No, I'm not a physical match examination. This is the photo that I took of item 3-1.
And what's contained in here, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the item 3-1, the taillight housing, looked like when you received it?
Yes. So this is one of the photos that I took of 7-18.18. This is how I received the clear piece of plastic. So this is a photo of the clear piece of plastic that was within that tin. This is the photo that I took of the debris that was collected from the clothing items. This is a photo that I took under a microscope of the red plastic pieces that I noted within the debris. This is a picture that I took of the red plastic pieces that I removed from the debris.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hanlon.
Here we go.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you again. We met about a year ago.
Uh-huh.
First of all, you indicated that you were doing a comparative analysis in different, sort of different categorical ways, using microscopy, using the microspec, using the FTIR. I think you also use the FTIR in that as well.
Yes.
And you indicated that your analysis concluded with those pieces could have come from the same source, from the source in 3-1, the taillight, but you're not conclusively saying they did, correct?
It could have come from, they could have a common origin, or it could have come from another source with the same characteristics.
Right. So in other words, another way to say that, Ms. Hanlon, is it may have come from the taillight, may not have.
It's a possibility.
Okay. I also want to ask you real quick about the taillight manufacturer. You were shown an exhibit, I think it's exhibit 200, and I think we have that available. With the court's permission, we don't have to cut the lights. I think the lighting is just fine. This is exhibit, or a photograph of exhibit 200 that you saw just a second ago. Quick question about that. In your inspection of that taillight, it's true, is it not, that is manufactured entirely of plastic or plasticine pieces. There is no glass in that taillight, correct?
I have to check my notes. I don't think I noted any glass.
Okay. So in other words, you didn't note any glass inherent in the manufacture of that taillight. It's basically plastic.
She's hesitating.
Yeah, I think most of the parts were plastic. I'm not 100% sure if the entire thing was plastic. There may have been other material, but
I mean, the light bulb
portions were plastic.
would be glass.
But you certainly didn't see any glass inherent in the manufacture process.
I'd have to double check my notes, but I don't think I did.
Okay.
Do you want her to check her notes?
Why don't you?
Sun's the
Are
light
your
bulb.
notes in front of you?
I don't think
Yes.
there's
With
going to
the
be any
court's
glass in there.
Sure.
Okay, so I did not make any notation that I noted portions that were glass.
Great. Final point before we get into the actual analysis. On any of the glass, I want to shift gears to just the glass material that you analyzed and that you looked at and you inspected. You saw no blood, no skin, no biological material, no tissue, human tissue or otherwise, on any of those pieces that you inspected, did you?
Upon examination of those items,
No. The answer is no.
that making observations of those types of material, that's not my area of expertise.
What?
I didn't. I don't think I noted anything.
Just spit it out, woman.
That was
No, the answer is no.
maybe consistent with that.
There you go.
So in other words, even though you're not in the bio material expert section of the lab, you certainly would have noted if there was skin or biological material, obvious blood on glass pieces. You were looking at them in many cases through a stereo microscope, correct?
Yes, I would have made note of observations
And you failed to do so because there weren't any.
of anything that I would have noted on the surface.
Right.
Great. And you did not,
Yeah.
because you didn't see anything.
Right.
Suggesting.
Yeah.
I think I just made note. I have to check each item, but I think I did note that there was some dirt debris on some of the
Dirt
items.
debris. Not biological material.
I did not note anything that
Oh
would
my
be
God.
maybe consistent.
Just
with
get it
that.
out.
Great. Thank you. I want to talk about
Ugh.
the comparisons that you did. And you'll forgive me, I'm a visual learner. So I'd like to talk about it in 4 categories.
Okay.
Linear categories. Category 1, item 3-2. Category 2, item 3-3. Category 3, item 7-12. Category 4, item 7-14. 3-2, 3-3, 7-12, 7-14. Can we talk about it in those particulars?
Sure.
Okay. 3-2 was the cup, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm going to use the word cup rather than glass for obvious reasons. You could get confused by that. So when I say the cup, do you know what I'm talking about?
Item 3-2.
Great. 3-3 are the 5 items that were found on the bumper, claimed to have been found on the bumper by MSP or the crime. Okay?
Yes.
5 items, A, B, C, D, and E, correct?
Correct.
Item 7-12 are 9 items, glass items, that were recovered at 34 Fairview by Trooper Buchanan in an evidence envelope, correct?
So sustained as to who they were recovered from.
Sure. Did you receive the items along with an evidence envelope?
I need to double check if it was an envelope, but I received it packaged.
Okay. And the packaging normally, in normal circumstances, the packaging comes with labels that gives you reference about where things came from. For instance, when Mr. Lally asked you, were you aware or did you become aware that items were claimed to have been found on the bumper? You didn't actually find those items, but that was the description you were given, correct?
That was the description of the item in our limb system.
Okay. And going back to 7-12, that's our third category, was that described as 9 pieces of glass that were found at 34 Fairview by a sergeant by the name of Buchanan? Or do you recall that?
I am not sure who recovered them.
Or what it said on the evidence envelope? That's what I'm asking.
I would have to check my photos to see if it says that.
We'll get to that in just a second, but fair enough. 7-12, 9 items, A, B, C, D, E, and if my memory serves, I, K, and L?
I'd have to refer to my notes to...
Can you please?
Yes. So the 9 pieces of glass from 7-12 were labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L.
Great. And then finally, what was in 7-14, that's an easy one, 1 piece of glass.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Your firm does work and the Commonwealth pays for it, correct?
That's the idea.
Right. And so you know about that contract because you signed it.
Correct.
Also, you testified on direct that there was a purchase of a Lexus exemplar for your testing.
Correct.
Who pays for that Lexus exemplar?
Aperture?
And is that then cost passed on to the Commonwealth?
No.
So
What?
you pay for the Lexus, you don't pass that cost on,
What?
correct?
So what we're doing is we paid for the Lexus, we're keeping it till the trial's over, we're selling it and charging the Commonwealth the difference in the price.
Exactly. That was where I was going, sir. So,
But they're only paying the difference. So, and in theory, if we sell it for more in California, then we'll reduce the bill.
okay, I don't want to speculate. I just wanted to see what the obligation was.
Yeah.
So
The
if
obligation is the difference.
exactly. So the obligation is the difference. Are
I
you
see.
aware that
Okay.
on April 5th, 2025, the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office amended your contract? Are you aware of that, sir?
I am.
And isn't it the case that that amendment authorized the amount of $325,000 to be paid to Aperture? Isn't that what that amendment contract states?
I believe that's correct.
Wow.
So the Commonwealth is obligated to pay at least $325,000, and is that correct?
That is you're asking me a legal opinion now about a contract. That is my understanding of how contracts work, but I'm certainly not an attorney.
Well, dude, you're making yourself look like a fool. It's a simple question. Was the contract amended or not? $325,000? You cannot be serious. Okay, you guys, I'm about to tell you something that you're probably not ready for. There are experts out there that are insanely expensive. Insanely expensive. Some of the most expensive experts are going to be those in like a medical malpractice case. I handle medical malpractice cases, 1-844-774-HERD. If you need us, call us. But not the point of this. Listen to this. I'm about to blow your minds from experience. There was a case that my friend and his dad, they have a law firm, they settled very recently. It was a Ford rollover case. The bearings, the weight bearing of the Ford was insufficient, and the Ford rolled over, the woman got crushed, and Ford ended up paying 8-figure settlement, somewhere in that region, I believe. I don't have any evidence of this. It's just things I've heard on the grapevine. In Georgia. This was in Georgia. And the experts in that case, because I was curious, like, how much did they spend? Collectively, on all of the experts, every single expert who testified in that case, or was going to testify, they did the deposition. I mean, they spent years on that case down in Georgia. It was less than $250,000. All experts combined. And it was one of the most highly litigated cases. Like, anytime you think like pharmaceuticals, tobacco, car manufacturers, that sort of thing, you're going to get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars because you have 20 experts lined up, and you have to also pay for the depositions of your opponent's experts. So it gets really, really pricey. It gets really expensive. And that's normal. In a normal case that's like a personal injury case, your experts are going to run you $5,000. If it's a multi-million-dollar wrongful death case, your experts may run you about $100,000 collectively, total, on a 10, 20, 30, $40 million case. Aperture is getting $325,000 as a single expert, not including all the other experts that they paid for. That is a bribe. That's a bribe. It is not commensurate with industry standards. It is not commensurate with industry practices. It is not commensurate with industry rates. It is not commensurate with anything but, I need you to say what I need you to say, and I'll give you anything you want for it. Okay, give us $350,000. Okay, here you go. Okay, we'll say what you need us to say. Thank you. Nice doing business with you. It's a bribe. That is the dead giveaway that it's a bribe. You piece of...
On top of that, are you aware that Aperture has been already paid $44,510 for its work? Are you aware of that?
The second time you asked me, no. I'm not aware of anything we've been paid.
And as you stated yourself, those amounts reflect, as you say, less than 6 months worth of work?
That's not what I said.
Well, no, my question is, you've been on the case, you said, since September of 2024, when we were talking about dates. You said that was about 6 months that your firm's been retained. Did I have your answer correct about how long you've been on it?
I guess it's closer to 8 months.
All right, so 8 months. So for 8 months of work, about $400,000. Is that correct?
So there's 3 offices working on the case. There's the Boston office.
So?
There's Mr. Burgess's office, and there's my office in Long Beach.
So?
I only know about the billing from my office.
But you signed the contract on behalf of all of Aperture,
yes,
not just your office, correct?
Yes.
That I don't know.
Oh, whatever.
But I definitely did sign a contract.
I believe that it's possible that the Lexus taillight could have caused these wounds to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm. Is that correct?
Correct.
And more specifically, would have been caused by the vehicle scratching Mr. O'Keefe's arm as it drives past him. Is that correct?
I don't know, I'd characterize it that way. What happens is, this 6,000-pound vehicle is coming, and he's standing on a, icy, snowy roadway area, and it's going to contact him and move his whole body and induce rotation.
Right. So it's going to contact him and, under your theory, induce rotation. So wouldn't such a movement of the car relative to his right arm result in horizontal injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, as can be seen on his bicep above the elbow?
So could we pull up one of my slides to address this issue?
Sure,
I'd like to answer your question with a slide that I have that addresses this exact point.
I'd like to stay with this slide, Dr. Welcher, and see if you can answer my questions off of this slide. So I'll repeat it.
Sure.
Do you agree that the injuries up at the upper part, where you're familiar with the bicep brachialis?
I am.
And aren't those two up at the top, right over the bicep brachialis?
They're actually about midway between the biceps and the triceps.
Right. So you know which two I'm talking about, the two up there. Can you just use your laser pointer just so we're talking about the same two? Do you have one?
I'll give it a try, but the upper ones.
I know it's not your fault, but
On
sometimes
the
it
image,
doesn't
the
show.
upper left. I mean,
Yes.
technically, the ones right to the right of that are also on the biceps and triceps.
Right, but
the
I'm talking
biceps goes all the way to the elbow, so do the triceps.
Right. So I'm talking about the two that are the farthest up.
Correct.
All right. Would you agree that those are in a horizontal orientation?
Generally, yes, which is what you'd expect with your arm like this and the tail light coming across like this, which is what I showed in my slides.
My questions are
He's getting
trying to
upset.
keep this moving. I just asked if those are in a horizontal orientation.
Yeah,
Yes
more
or
or
no?
less. They're angled down slightly, but more or less horizontal.
Okay. Isn't it true that if Mr. O'Keefe's arm were to be flexed like it was with the test subject in your blue paint test, the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's forearm would be oriented in a vertical direction?
Absolutely not. If you pull up my slide 117, it'll show exactly that it is like perfectly horizontal. When you're standing like this, and this is the tail light, the laceration, when it comes across here and pushes my body, it's going to make a horizontal laceration because the 6,000-pound vehicle is going to push me out of the way. As this pushes me out of the way, it's going to drag and create a horizontal laceration across my arm.
Wait a minute. Didn't Trooper Paul argue that John O'Keefe's arm was out like this? And he has already referenced in the previous video that he's familiar with Trooper Paul's work, unfortunately, for him. Although, I don't know. They're all in cahoots with one another, so you're taking bribes to say whatever the government wants you to say, so I guess it's not surprising. And Trooper Paul did not testify in this case, so there's no contradiction, unfortunately. But the jury in the first trial heard it, and if you have not seen those videos, oh my god, there's 4 of them. Go check them out, trust me. And don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Paul said that John O'Keefe's arm was out this way, and now it's down this way? And they both argue rotation, which is kind of fascinating because I swear that the lengths that these people have to go to like try and fabricate this impact is just staggering,
This is exactly what you'd expect.
So let's talk about the forearm, sir. We may have miscommunicated. I'm talking about the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's forearm now.
So we're switching from the arm to the forearm.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Wouldn't those be oriented in a vertical direction?
No. Again, you have the vehicle. If this is me and this is the car, it's pushing and pushing across like this. And with your arm bent like this, it's going to cause laceration as it pushes my arm away. It pushes like that.
Okay, I
And
got it.
My slide shows this quite clearly.
Okay,
So-
well, if that's the case, then where's the biological material? As these abrasions occur, they're going to leave a mark on the object that has caused them, right? No, did the rain wash it all away? Wow, just wow.
So you disagree.
I wish I could see the jury's face
You
right
do
now.
not agree that the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's forearm, under your theory, would be oriented in a vertical. You disagree with that. It's just want to get that on the record.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Now, also, do you understand that under your theory of injury here, that there would be injuries caused in 2 different directions by the same movement of the car? Agree or disagree?
I'm going to say I disagree. You need to give me a little more. You're going to have, again, this is a glancing or a clipping type impact, and so it's going to be it's going to sweep across the arm, which is what causes the horizontal laceration.
We're talking about a flat surface, right, sir?
Approximately, yes.
And therefore, you would have to maintain contact with the arm as the car moves. Am I correct about that?
Maintain contact with the arm? I'm unclear what you mean.
Come on, that's an easy one.
What I'm trying to do, sir, is to get under your theory, right, given the contact that you've described.
Oh, I love how he says, under your theory. Not what makes common sense, but your conjecture, your theoretical, your theory. he's distancing Judson Welcher's opinion from this case, and I think the jury's following along quite nicely. I am.
What would you expect to be
Let me know in the comments below if you get it.
orientation of the
same way.
wounds to the upper part of the arm and to the lower part of the arm?
Just like it's shown in this photograph.
Okay. Isn't it the case with your theory that the tail light would have to break, and after the break, the arm would have to maintain contact with the arm as the car moves?
So that is what happens in pedestrian contacts. There is a contact duration. For example, you asked me earlier in that calculation you had me ran, you said 0.01 seconds. That was the contact duration. So when you have things like this, and that's why you have to allow, if you do testing, the body to move, because the car is going to hit the body, it's going to cause it to move, the body's going to rotate away, and the car is going to continue on in that clipping type impact. So the arm is definitely in contact with the rear of the car for some time.
That's what I wanted to get to, is simply that under your theory, the tail light would break, and also the arm would need to maintain contact with the tail light area as the car moves. Is that your supposition?
So at a point in time, it'll stop contact, but the 6,000-pound vehicle is going to want to continue moving on. It's going to push, it's going to initially contact the arm and then push the arm away as it rotates the body. So yes, it's going to maintain contact until the clipping is over and the vehicle continues on.
So my next question is simply, how long do you believe the arm needs to maintain contact with the taillight after, under your theory, it breaks to produce those types of wounds that you say came from a taillight?
We don't have enough information to determine that.
Right. You don't have enough information to make that determination, do you, sir?
Correct. But we know because of the laws of physics that it has to be some amount of time. It doesn't occur instantaneously.
So now we do apply the laws of physics to the right arm that weren't applied before because you applied a paint experiment. Is that correct? You're now applying the laws of physics to the injury to the right arm. But you didn't do that in your report.
Nope. Always applied the laws of physics. The paint experiment, as you're referring to it, was to look at basically the orientation of the scratches that matched this. So that was an engineering experiment to correlate height, position of the taillights relative to height, orientation of the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
You just said, sir, if I heard you correctly, you, to answer my previous question, applied the laws of physics. That's what you just said, correct?
So the laws of physics cover more than Newton's second law.
Oh, God.
There's a whole law of physics. The whole field of physics is a broad subject. So a simple measurement of height is a physical measurement.
Sir, I have your entire report.
He's just talking in circles.
Right here. Where in the report do you apply the law of physics to the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe? Where?
So in the paint experiment we did, the laws of physics about gravity, orientation, things like that, I didn't apply Newton's second law, as we already went through. But again, those simple positions, arm angles.
Wait, is he picking and choosing which laws of physics he's going to apply to this case as he's doing these experiments? Is this guy a joke? Oh, yeah, he is. He's a liar for hire. I forgot.
Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Massachusetts State Police in furtherance of their investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by either the Canton Police Department or the Massachusetts State Police with regard to any of your observations on January 28th or January 29th, 2022?
No.
And you never wrote a report about your observations or any observations that you had on
Then what
January
is she doing
28th
there?
or January 29th, 2022, correct?
No.
That was a double negative. Let me try that a different way. Did you ever write a report about your observations related to January 28th, 2022, January 29th, 2022?
No.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, the first time you were ever interviewed in connection with anything having to do with this case or this investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe was by a separate law enforcement agency, not the Massachusetts State Police,
FBI?
not the Canton Police Department, correct?
Yes.
That was in August of 2023, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember the exact date?
No.
August 9th, 2023, does that sound right? About right?
I know it was the summer of 2023.
Okay.
So,
do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of that interview?
yes, because I've never seen it before.
Do you have that date in mind?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that it was August 9th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, Officer Dever, to January 28th, 2022. Where were you working? What was your duty assignment on that day, January 28th, moving into January 29th?
Well, 3.5 years later, I remember I was on patrol. I don't remember anything further about this night.
Did you work overnight, like a late shift going into the morning of January 29th?
That was my assigned shift, so
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Who else was working with you on that particular day, if you recall?
Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Officer Seraph, and Officer Pasquarelli.
And what generally was your assignment when you went into work that night on January 28th?
Patrol.
At some point, either that evening in the early morning hours of January 29th, did you note that a call came in related to a person found in the snow, unresponsive in the snow?
Yes.
Tell me about that. The nature of the call and where were you?
I was in my cruiser. A call came in that said person in a snowbank, something along those lines. Immediately followed by that transmission, my sergeant requested that I come to take over dispatch.
Is that Sergeant Good?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, respond back to Canton PD to take over dispatch?
Yes, so I was already in the parking lot of the Canton Police while this took place, so I was already at the station.
Did you note whether or not Sergeant Good and or any of the others responded to the location while you stayed back to handle dispatch at the police department?
Yes, that's why I went inside so he could respond.
Were you aware that Sergeant Good, did you have any knowledge at that time that Sergeant Good was familiar with or knew who Brian Albert was?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know who Brian Albert was at
No.
that time?
No.
Do you now? At least
Because of
familiar
this
with the
case,
name?
yes.
I spoke over you, I'm so sorry. Based on this case, are you familiar with the name?
The name, yes.
Did you know Kevin Albert?
No. Oh, the detective Kevin Albert. Yes, I did.
Correct. How did you know Kevin Albert?
He was a detective for the Canton Police.
Were you aware of his relationship to Brian Albert at that time?
No.
Are you now aware of his relationship with Brian Albert?
Yes, from the media.
And what is that relationship as you know it?
Sustained.
Did you know Brian Higgins at that time?
Yes, in passing.
I'm not asking if you're social friends, asking if you knew who he was.
Yes.
How'd you know who Brian Higgins was?
He had an office in the Canton Police.
Is he a sworn police officer?
Not for us.
Is he a sworn federal agent?
Yes.
Worked for ATF?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you known and been familiar with Brian Higgins? Say, for instance, by sight. To be able to...
She looks so frustrated. She's like, dude, what do you want from me? Why am I here? I love this. I love this.
recognize who he was.
Sometime during 2020 is when I was probably first familiarized with him, because that's when I was employed with the Canton Police Department first.
Okay. Pass him in the hallways, hi, bye, things like that.
Yes.
Sustained is to form, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Did you know him by sight?
Yes.
Could you recognize him if you saw him?
2.5 years later, no, but at the time, yes.
I'm not asking you about right now. I'm asking you back in January 2022. Could you recognize him by sight?
Yes.
Did you know who Kenneth Berkowitz was?
Yes.
Who is Kenneth Berkowitz?
He was the chief of the Canton Police.
Obviously very familiar with him. He was your boss, correct?
Yes.
When Sergeant Good instructed you to take over dispatch, explain what that meant.
It meant I walked inside and I sat down in a dispatch room.
Describe the dispatch room. What did that array look like?
There was chairs and computers.
The snarkiness. I love the snarkiness. She's like, oh, I get a chance to mess with him. I walked in and I sat down, and there are computers and chairs. You got any more genius questions, genius? Oh, I'm eating this up. Give me more.
Monitors?
Yes.
Does the dispatch area also have monitors of internal security camera footage?
I know there was camera screens, but I don't know if they were on TVs or computers or where in dispatch they were. I don't recollect where they were or how they would be accessed. They were in the room somewhere. I can't be more specific. I don't remember.
But you do recall seeing that there were monitors that were showing different views of internal security camera footage of Canton PD, correct?
The specifics?
Oh.
No. Were there? Yes.
Oh, I got it now. She was assigned desk duty that evening, so she had eyes on Higgins when Higgy was moving cars around in Canton PD at 4 o'clock in the morning because she was taken out of her cruiser because Sergeant Good was like, listen, I need you to man dispatch in case calls come in. Oh, they got the dispatch girl.
I don't know what you mean by specifics. I'm asking you, were there monitors that you could look at that showed security camera footage from inside Canton PD, different areas, hallways, corridors, offices, the Sally Port, for instance?
So, 2.5 years since I've...
You keep saying 2.5 years later.
So let her finish her answer and then ask.
Sure.
It's been years since I've been in that room. They were somewhere in the room. Where cameras were in the Canton Police Department, I don't recall. The media's provided me information since this case took place, and I can't speak on what's my recollection and what's been media provided. There are cameras. I don't know where on my memory where they are.
So has the media informed you that there were internal security monitors at the dispatch location?
So the objection is sustained. Next question.
What do you recall from the dispatch room, as you put it? What do you recall being there in terms of monitors?
I remember there was a computer screen that had information about current calls, and then there was a 911 screen next to that. Those are the two computers that I would have been positioned in front of during this time.
As a dispatch officer, by the way, you were a sworn officer at
Yes.
that time, correct? Uniform, badge, gun, the whole works, right?
Yes.
Had you ever been in the Sally Port at Canton PD?
Yes.
What's the Sally Port?
A Sally Port is a garage, essentially.
Okay. You were aware that the Sally Port garage had a camera, a security camera?
It would make sense because that's where we bring prisoners to drop them off.
Well, more than just makes sense, I'm asking you, do you recall that it had cameras that serviced the Sally Port garage? Security cameras?
It's where we brought prisoners, so there would be cameras, yes.
Okay, you're saying there would be cameras. I'm asking you, were there cameras?
According to the media, yes. I've seen the footage, so yes, there were cameras.
All right, so hold on. So I'm going to strike the officer. You have to answer the question based on your own independent methods. Okay? You can't reference what you know from the media.
What the hell? To the judge! To the judge, she sighed like that, and Bev is like just taking it on the chin. Are you kidding me? Any judge in the universe would be like, I'm sorry, did you just sigh at me? But Bev has no self-respect for herself because she realizes the level that she had to stoop to in order to protect the Alberts, and she hates herself for it. So when she's disrespected by a witness openly, unapologetically, all this animosity that Dever has towards Jackson is being redirected towards Bev. And Bev is just like, hit me again. What?
All right. There were cameras in the Sally Port.
There you go. Good girl.
I have no relation to this case, so...
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can, no comments, just questions. Not, I understand that.
Do you want to be here today, ma'am?
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
Oh, wow.
No clue whatsoever, as you sit here, why you might have been called to the stand.
No.
Are you uncomfortable testifying?
No, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Objection.
What? Wait. How can you object to testify the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Objection. We're lying here, Your Honor. Sustained. Lies are permitted, Mr. Jackson. You know this. What?
And Mr. Higgins near the Sally Port area?
I told them on the day of that I saw that. I didn't make any indications there was anything bad. I just said I saw them. And it was in good faith that I believed I saw that. That was the extent of that comment.
So you had told him you believed you saw Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins in the Sally Port area that day?
On January 29th during my day shift, yes.
Did you then learn any information that helped you remember when your shift ended that day?
So I know my shift ended at 3:45 p.m. So
I know that I left then. That wasn't ever one of my questions. The defense released a timeline right prior to the first trial that the vehicle on that day did not arrive in the Sallyport until about an hour and a half after I left, meaning it is not possible that I saw that.
When you saw this information, did you think about your memory?
So when I saw that information, it made it clear to me that there was a distortion of the timeline, and the false memory I created, I provided in good faith, but I retracted immediately, being provided evidence that it was not possible.
Who did you retract it to? Who did you tell?
So I told the defense team prior to the first trial. I also contacted the agents. The agents assured me that good faith.
Not what they said, but what you thought. Not what they said to you. But
Did
how-
they threaten to put you in jail when you told them about your mistake?
No, I even spoke with the legal team, and they said that I made a comment in good faith. There was absolutely no way that I could be charged with anything of being malicious.
Before we get to your conversation with the defense team, now I wasn't there in that conversation, was I?
No,
Have you ever shared that conversation with me?
I've never shared it with anyone.
Before we get to that, you seem a bit anxious. Are you anxious?
Confused as to why I'm here, but anxious now.
Have you received any negative pushback because of you sharing your memory? Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No,
Have you received any unwarranted attention from the public or media?
not to my knowledge, but I didn't go digging to find it.
You mentioned the media sent you something. What did they send you?
So I've seen things in the media. No media has ever been directed for me to find it. It's just this case is unavoidable as a local person on the internet who sees things that get shared.
So inevitably, you were contacted by the defense.
Yes, prior to the first trial.
You mentioned that somebody had suggested you be charged with perjury.
Yes.
Who did that?
One of the male members of the defense team.
Why did they say that to you? Objection.
Sustained.
What were you discussing when you were threatened with perjury?
They were essentially telling me what they were looking for me to say on the stand.
What were they looking for you to say?
They were looking for me to say that I saw Higgins and Berkowitz in the garage with the car.
Which is what you said! Okay, I get it, you retracted it later, but if you don't admit to it, the fact that you actually said those words to the FBI agents, that would be perjury, lady. They're not saying just admit to it and say, this is the fact and this is it. They threaten you because they're like, if you're going to lie and say that you never said that to the agents, which you did, and you know that you did, and we know that you did, you will be charged with perjury. Or you can be charged with perjury. Do you understand that? Where's the problem?
Share with them that that wasn't an accurate memory?
Yes.
How did they respond?
They became very aggressive, raised their voices, and the one word that I can very definitely remember is they said that they would charge me with perjury.
What did they want you to say?
They wanted me to say that statement, although I knew at that point it was not.
But you
an
made
accurate
it!
Statement given the timeline.
How many times were you threatened with perjury?
At least once during the phone call, but once you say it once, it was enough.
What else happened during that phone call? Tell us the tenor of it. Tell us the content of it.
That was essentially the thing I remember most because I understood that was what they wanted me to provide for the trial. I was never called for the first trial. Therefore, I'm not exactly sure what else there is for me to say when the one thing that they wanted on the stand, it is factually not correct and cannot be provided.
When they threatened you to charge you with perjury, tell us what your state of mind was. You can mean it.
Disappointment that legal counsel would go that route with someone who is from a factual timeline saying something is incorrect. There was no retracting based on emotion. It was very clear, given the timeline, it could not be correct.
Now, you work for the Boston Police Department?
Yes.
And by the way, when you were with Canton, did you ever talk to anybody about
cute.
interviewing or planting evidence or doing anything like that?
No, and this conspiracy theory came out a year and a half later. I was gone.
Did anybody from Canton ever try to suggest to you you should or shouldn't say something to help the hurt side of the case?
No, because I was never spoken to until far after I left.
Did you ever see anybody in this case or any time you were with Canton doing something improper and tampering with evidence?
Not in this case or any case.
If you had, would you have reported it?
Yes.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
I'll strike that, ladies and gentlemen.
So you transferred to the Boston Police Department. Has anybody from the Boston Police Department ever suggested that you should lean your testimony one way or another?
No.
Has anybody from Boston Police Department ever given you any rewards or favors for defying the defense position?
No.
Has anybody ever suggested that you should say anything whatsoever that would be unhelpful to the defense?
No.
Has the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office ever encouraged you to testify in any way other than the truth?
No.
When you spoke to the chief of the Boston Police Department, did he in any way ever tell you to shoot for your testimony?
Not at all.
When you met with the Boston Police Department Commissioner, did he ever ask you the substance of what your testimony would or wouldn't be under oath?
He made it very clear he did not want to discuss the case at all.
When you spoke to the people at the Boston Police Department, have they ever weighed in any way on what they think you should or shouldn't say?
No.
As you're testifying here today, are you under any tension, undue influence, stress, threat?
There is discomfort with the way that there's attempting to guide what my testimony is.
What?
But I don't feel any need to fall into it because I'm here to speak the truth on the stand. That's my livelihood.
When you were threatened with perjury, how long was that conversation?
I believe it was just about an hour on the phone. My phone log on my physical phone would not go back far enough for me to be able to retrieve the date or the time that that phone call took place.
That conversation lasted an hour?
Approximately.
How did it end?
Not on a good note in the slightest. I remember it was a pretty hasty hang up on both ends.
Thank you for your time.
Huh.
A male voice.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Now let's get back to the fun part. Redirect examination by Alan Jackson. And he starts out with a zinger. A male voice. Look at it. All faces are on him. Little, Karen, David, and I'm sure we can't see Bob Alessi's head, but I'm sure he's turned behind him as well, probably. Everybody is like, a male voice? Oh, tell me more, honey.
Threatened to charge you with perjury?
Yes.
You're a police officer, correct?
Yes.
Who charges people with crimes?
If a crime is committed, there can be a report of it.
Who
So
charges people with crimes?
in the end, it's going to go through the court system. So the district attorney, the ADAs, that's who pursues it in a court.
There you go.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge anybody with a crime?
So you can seek out reporting someone for it.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge someone with a crime?
Personally, no.
Fact of the matter is, nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did.
That's it.
I contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
Oh.
You have a report?
I have an email conversation where I sent the 2 questions I had. She responded, I will pass these along. I was contacted by their legal team. They reassured me perjury was not applicable because I made a statement in good faith. Upon further information, I retracted it, corrected it, and made it clear that I could no longer say it because I knew that it was not a clear reflection of the events that took place.
Oh, so defensive. Yeah, that's a mouthful. I agree.
Yes.
My question is, do you have a report from the FBI saying that you reported that someone on the Karen Reed defense team threatened to charge you, your words, with perjury? You have a report to that effect?
No.
No. Your job as a police officer
is to tell the truth.
Is to be objective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not supposed to take an adversarial position against one side or the other, correct?
I don't.
Yes.
You're not supposed
right down
to.
the middle, just the facts, as you noted, correct?
Yes.
You feel like you're being unbiased in your testimony here today in front of these jurors?
I'm telling the truth.
You think you're being fair to both sides?
All I have to do is tell the truth. If it's not perceived to be fair, that's someone else's opinion.
Let's talk about
That's
that
you.
truth.
Wait, whoa. Hold on. Perception is everything. Perception is reality. My perception of you, woman, is you are hiding, you're being dishonest, you're extremely uncomfortable, and rather than just simply answer the question being asked, you deflect. So, pot calling the kettle black? Is that a self-admission? You tell me. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel while you're at it.
What you told those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023 was, quote, you recalled seeing Higgins at the station later that day on Saturday. Dever thought it was also weird that Higgins and Chief Kenny Berkowitz were by themselves in the sally port of the police department, by themselves while Karen Reed's car was parked inside. Higgins was a witness and present at the gathering where O'Keefe was found dead outside, and then he was in the presence of important evidence. You were sitting at dispatch by yourself and saw on the camera outside of the Sally Port when they walked in.
Objection to the entire reading.
So.
But that's what she
beyond the
said.
Scope, so you have to keep it.
There's more to the statement, Your Honor. Do you remember making that statement to the officers?
My recollection of the time was that, so yes.
Okay, great. Did you go on to say, speaking of being truthful, did you go on to say,
I'm objecting.
All right, so you have to ask differently, but I need to see you for a minute with this and bring that with you.
Officer Dever, did you go on to say in that interview, quote, you never saw them leave, them being Brian Higgins and Chief Ken Berkowitz. You never saw them leave, but you recalled thinking to yourself that they
was
were in
weird.
the Sally Port for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection of the time.
Okay.
So yes.
By the way, you indicated on the
And I
question
think what Jackson was trying to say is, look, this is what I'm going to be asking you, and if you try to lie about that, you could be charged with perjury, which is 100% accurate. And it was absolutely a threat and absolutely correct for Jackson or whoever, Yannetti, because Alessi I don't think was on there in the first trial, obviously. So it was Jackson or Yannetti. They made this statement to her. Don't lie or else you can be charged with perjury. Not me. I can't charge you with perjury. I don't work for the government. Only the government can.
by Mr. Brennan that
of course they never will.
You knew what they wanted from me, meaning the defense, what they wanted from me.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes.
Do you remember on that phone call that we read directly from the exact same report that I just read from? You remember that?
And I told you the same thing. Yes.
Sorry, I'm still allergic to bullshit.
Sustained.
My question is, just answer my question.
Yes!
Sarah,
Please!
Did we read to you, were you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like, you can't remember my name. I don't remember.
Oh my God.
Okay, so the answer is I don't remember. No comments.
More than that, Judge. I think we all.
All right, so no comments, just questions, please.
Do you recall us telling you that we were looking for the truth about your comments?
I'm going to allow it.
That we were looking for the truth.
Which I gave you, yes.
Did you also say on that phone call something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one because I'm changing my testimony?
Changing, no. But you're trying to do that.
Did you say, I know you're going to tear me a new one?
That's what you're trying to do, so yes.
Actually, what you said was, you're going to tear me a new asshole, didn't you?
I don't recall that, so that's putting words in my mouth.
I'm not asking you to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you if you remember saying that during that phone call. Oh,
I don't
I know
recall.
you're going to tear me a new asshole.
I don't recall.
Okay. But you do remember saying something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard of something called the Blue Wall of Silence?
Ah.
Sustained.
Well, folks, I hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something. I hope you all like it. And yeah, those were the top 10 moments of the Karen Reed jury trial over the last 2 weeks. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next video. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.